Hello, and welcome to this edition of Art Out and About. I'm Tony Labriola. I'm a professor of media here at Governor State University, and I'm joined by these two lovely ladies. And we're here to talk today about a very interesting exhibit that's up at the GSU Visual Arts Gallery. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but I will say that one of them is a colleague in media. This is Professor Debbie James, but please go ahead, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Tony. Yes, I'm a professor here of media communication, but one of the things I'm really actually most interested in is how people can collaborate with media and ideas across time and geography to actually try to affect social change. So that's really what I like to think that I do here.
Cool. And this is not a colleague here from Governor State University, but Dejana, Erich, please.
Yes, I'm a digital media designer and musician from Toronto, Canada, where I run a virtual design studio, Geist Creative, and play in my band, the 8 1/2s.
The 8 1/2s. Has nothing to do with Fellini, right?
Oh, absolutely nothing.
We're here to talk about an entire presentation that you have at the GSU Visual Arts Gallery. And normally, I would jump right in and talk to them about how this started and everything else, but I'm going to do something a little different for you all. This is a very conceptual piece, and so what I'd like to do is we're just going to do a little bit of a walkthrough first. I'm going to give you an idea of what is actually in the space, and then later we'll talk a little bit more about that. But then we'll come back and talk a little bit about these two ladies and their stories. So here we go. Let's take a little look at what happens as we walk through the door. So help us here. What do we see? What's going on?
Well, the first thing that people will see is portraits, large-sized portraits that are really close to the face. The face is actually larger than life, and it comes across on the right-hand side, and there's an interactive screen that's there. We have interviewed 5 people whose portraits are on the wall, and there's a touchscreen option for each one of the people who's portrayed on the wall.
And we hear a little bit about them talking.
That's right.
Related to?
Well, really, one of the big questions is, what is home? What is home to people?
Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while. So they've now seen this little piece. What else do they see there?
They wrap around and they see a few projections, one of them being a dreamlike projection on a translucent screen, which is supposed to evoke those memories of home and, you know, hopefully various feelings. And we also see 2 projections of a woman swimming across one way and back the other.
Okay, so we're just going to stop there for a minute. That's your little tease, okay? We will come back to this in a little bit, and they'll explain what's going on and what it's like being in that space. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what's happening. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how you two met, got together, and decided to do this. Give me some of your story.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we met at work in 1999. So we've been friends and work colleagues for 14 years. And we started off working in an internet startup company at its very beginning.
Yes, the .com boom, as they commonly refer to.
Yes. So we were able to ride that bubble right to the burst.
And what drew you two together? I mean, outside of obviously being in the same place.
Yes, crazy
but
environment.
you connected in some way or another, right?
Absolutely, we connected. And that connection has really maintained over many years and spanned different countries and different jobs and different circumstances. So
yeah. I mean, we told a lot of stories. I mean, I think that was really the big part. We both had stories to tell.
Absolutely.
At the time, you had been in Canada for a while, but there came a point in the early 2000s where you were going back.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I went back. I'm originally from Sarajevo, from Bosnia.
Okay, now we're putting this together. So you're originally from Sarajevo.
That's right.
And you have a background in that area?
My extended family, yes, is from Croatia.
Croatia. Okay, so there's another connection.
Absolutely.
Please, yeah.
Yes, so originally coming from Sarajevo, from Bosnia, to Canada. I hadn't actually returned to my hometown until 2001. That was the first time, and that is a decade, which is quite a long time.
Now, I must tell you that in doing some of my research for this, I noticed a quote from you that said that you had fully embraced life in Canada.
And that is
and
true.
then you had a sort of an epiphany when you went back.
Absolutely, it was quite a cathartic experience, actually, and Debbie, absolutely was a big part of me being able to express what it meant going back, and a lot of the stories that I told, I think, triggered some of our dialogue and inspired this project, this many years later.
Well, let me ask you, while we're still on this, how did it feel to return? What were some of those feelings that maybe you hadn't thought about for a while?
Well, you put some stuff aside. It's a bit of a survival instinct, I'm sure. And I just pushed ahead with my life in Canada. And then when I went back, I was just confronted with a barrage of emotions and very mixed feelings. It was actually quite a surreal experience. And Sarajevo at the time was still in the phase of being rebuilt. So a lot of the damage was still quite evident, but a lot of new development had sprung up. So
did you have a direct connection? By that I mean, did you know where you were brought up and where your family was, and did you visit those sites and things like that?
Absolutely. Those were, I spent my formative years in Sarajevo and went all through grade school, so it was very important.
Completely different when you went back? Did you recognize it, or was it enough to recognize and then it was heart-rending seeing the other things?
Yes, like I said, the fact that a lot of it was so familiar and a lot of it was new and unfamiliar, so it was a bit of a surreal experience that way.
The one description that I have, that's one photo that she took. She went to her old schoolhouse.
Right.
And the old schoolhouse had been bombed out, and you were holding books. You were with friends that you hadn't seen since
my grade school friends.
They walked out of the house one day and left. And there was these pictures.
That was the first time the three of us had walked into our grade school together, and which was used actually as an army base. So there were still sandbags, sky above us, walls and rubble, and we found, and I photographed a book that we had read for a book report, years earlier. So moments like that really, affect a person.
And did you come back and you talked together? This was before a trip that you made, right? Absolutely. So what was that conversation like that after you came back, and what was your reaction to her stories?
Well, it's so beyond any experience that I've ever had, and I think one of the things that I was amazed and curious and interested that she could go back and be standing in her school and have it be bombed out, because that's just so beyond any sort of experience I had. And I think one of the other things I remember when she was telling us about returning to the old home that she had, and they had taken everything, her photographs, personal mementos, but they left behind these tiles that could have easily been destroyed, like things that they could have destroyed that meant nothing were there, and yet they had cleaned your entire apartment out of family photos. So your entire childhood was gone, cleaned out.
So it was almost a way of erasing memory.
Absolutely. Yes.
And memory, personal memory, as well as memory of home, conflict, all of that.
Yeah, it certainly was. And I think my memories of being a teenager, a young teenager, are very innocent and are filled with silly things that we would have done, travels we would have taken, wonderful little stories. And then I talked to Dejana, and we do not have a point of comparison for that particular period of our lives. Right. We swap stories because either one of us does not understand or have experienced.